In this video, we are going to explain a little bit of those very important figures, values. For example, we will explore a little bit of what does income do, or where does income come from, how we calculate capital, what is interest per tick, mortgage, how do we calculate that, deposits and repayments. So because everything really related to income, so we have to start with the income. Okay, so basically the income we use in this model actually is a random number from a particular gamma distribution. And capital is just a proportion of the income. So the real difficulty is how do we get that gamma distribution? Well, according to the author of this model, they say they find that gamma distribution from a paper right here. So basically in the paper it says, the author of the paper says they have a 2006 Australia income data, and they find a few distributions trying to match that data, and eventually the author of this model select the gamma distribution, and the key parameters right here are all used from that paper. So this is how we calculate the income, by using this gamma distribution. And then capital is easy. The capital is the money we save from the income, so which is a proportion of the income. So what is interest per tick? We know interest rates, which normally we look at it by from year by year. So when we say the interest rate is 3%, what we mean is the yearly interest rate is 3%. But now in the model, we are not dealing with years, we are dealing with ticks. So if we say a year equals 4 ticks, so the interest rates per tick can be calculated using this formula. This formula basically is saying that we first of all get interest rates by year, and then we divided the year by its 4 ticks. Therefore, we get per tick the interest rates. Mortgage is also a slightly difficult thing to compute. The formula is right here. Just look at the formula itself, it's a little bit difficult to understand, but we can understand it from a different perspective. This formula actually is derived from this equation. This equation actually says, okay, the mortgage is the money we borrow from bank to pay for the house. So this is the total amount of money we borrow from the bank. Because the money is from bank, so we have to pay interest. So we need the interest per tick. When the mortgage multiply interest per tick, that is every tick the owner need to pay some money back to the bank. So this is the amount the owner needs to pay. However, can the owner pay it? Is the owner capable of paying it? That depends on his income and his affordability. So we need to, so ideally, the amount of money the owner has to pay to the bank every tick should be equal to the amount of money that's his income multiply the affordability. Okay, so this is the natural, understandable relationship about mortgage, interest rates, income, and affordability. So if we know income, we know for affordability, and we also know interest per tick, then we can calculate mortgage by using the right part divided by interest per tick. That's how this equation, that's how this formula comes from. So basically, we find out the mortgage formula by this equation, by this relationship. How about deposits? Deposits is the down payment, is the initial payment to the bank, which has to come from the owner himself, the buyer himself. Okay, and how much first of all, the money has to come from the owner, the buyer himself, of course, but how much do we need to pay to the bank? We borrow some money from bank, which is mortgage, but the mortgage may not be enough to pay for the house, right? So if it is not enough, then the remaining parts of the money has to be paid by the buyer himself. So how much is that? Well, the way we compute it is through this formula. Also, just by looking at this formula, it's kind of difficult to understand. But we can reformulate this part into this part, which means the value divided by loan minus 1, which also can be reformulated into the value minus loan divided by loan. So this is the money we needed to buy the house. This is the money we get borrowed from bank. So the difference is the rest of the money which the buyer has to pay himself. But how much is that? We may not really know. At this moment, what we do not actually know. We only know this thing as a whole. But what we do know is this part is the amount we actually need to pay, which is the down payment. And the loan right here is actually the mortgage. So this formula says mortgage cancel loan out because they are essentially the same. And the value minus loan is the money which we need to pay, right? So that makes sense. That makes this equation correct. And we understand this relationship perfectly because this what is happening. But we don't know the value. We don't know. We know the loan. That's fine. We know the loan, but we don't know we may not exactly know the value of the house, maybe, but we should know, right? Anyway, but okay. At least what we know is this relationship works, all right? But the formula right here is using the maximum loan to value. This ratio or this value is actually changeable by the user, okay? So what we have access to is this parameter which we can change. But this part is essentially means the same thing as this part. What we just described right here is a way to understand this formula. All right, so this is about deposits. And finally, it's about repayment. Well, repayment, the formula is difficult, but we probably don't need to explain the logic behind it because this is the formula we can Google online. Everybody uses this formula, therefore we can take it for granted. The payment is every month, whenever it take, how much money I need to pay to the bank. Okay, all of these are important values and figures we use in this model, and we need to have some basic understanding of what they are and how they are computed.